How do you observe Passover during a pandemic? So many people are used to going to a hotel for Passover or observing it under more lavish circumstances with the ability to move around freely, something which is obviously not the case this year. So I just wanted to share with you the important points, go over the main points, how the laws of Passover are observed this year. Most importantly, health first. Any concern for health comes first, and that's what you need to look out for the most. There's a story with the great rabbi of the city of Brisk, and he was once in synagogue on the fast of the 9th of Av, Tisha B'Av, and he sees a man there, and this person asked if he can get an aliyah to the Torah, if he can be called up to the Torah. And the rabbi told him, are you fasting today? And he said, yes, I am. And he said, didn't the doctor say you should not be fasting today? And the man said, yeah, nonetheless, I decided to fast. And the rabbi turned to him and said, you have only one mitzvah now, and that is the mitzvah to be healthy. And if you can't keep that, then how can you be trusted with anything? Health must come first. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go over the Halachot of Pesach and the leniencies that the rabbis put in place just for this year in order to observe Pesach. It's important to note that all the halachot that I'm saying here are under extenuating circumstances. Many rabbis, including the chief rabbinate of Israel and Rabbi Herschel Schechter of Yeshiva University, put out a list of leniencies that can take place this year. And so these leniencies are in observance with the laws of Pesach. Nonetheless, they are considerate of the difficult circumstance that we're in. I'm going to go over them one at a time, everything you need to know, and if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. First point about Pesach, this year, no praying, obviously, with a minyan, no going to synagogue, no congregating, no eating with another family, nothing. This year is a Passover in isolation. Everyone's eating on their own. We need to make sure to stop the virus. That being said, people who have the custom to recite Hallel on the first night of Passover do not in synagogue, do not recite it if they're not in a synagogue. So strict prohibition on going to synagogue this year. Nonetheless, you do not say Hallel this year. Next point is dishes. When you buy dishes, a lot of people make sure that they take those dishes to the mikvah, if they're metal or glass. This year, people are advised to avoid mikvahs altogether. In Israel, they've been closed. So what do you do if you have dishes that you want to use for Passover? They're new dishes and you want to put them in a mikvah. The answer is you can sell them to a non-Jew, and that way they're exempt. Once the pandemic subsides, God willing, that should be very soon, you can get it back from a non-Jew. But what you do now is you give it to a non-Jew. There is a form that was put together by the Beit Din of America, a branch of the Rabbinical Council of America. It can be found in the description of this video below. And basically what you're going to do is you will gift your dishes to a non-Jew that either through them, or if you know someone and know the technicalities of how to gift something in accordance to Halachah, you can do that. But the easiest is to just fill out the Beit Din of America's form and to gift your pots, pans, cutlery to a non-Jew. This way you avoid the issue of Tvilat Kelim, of immersing dishes in the mikvah altogether. And God willing, you can fulfill that mitzvah next year when everyone is happy and healthy and we are all safe and sound. The next issue is making your dishes kosher. So many years people go away to hotels, to Florida, or they have the luxury of preparing with going to the stores and making things kosher in the proper way. This year, we do not have that luxury. So how do you make dishes kosher in anticipation of Passover? Well, there are two ways to go about this. One is a leniency that, again, is in effect only this year. It was put in writing by the chief rabbis of Israel. You can find a link to it in the description. Basically, what they say is you can make your dishes kosher in your oven. So what are you going to do? You can make sure that your oven is completely clean, doesn't have anything in it. Put down maybe a sheet of tin foil, or make sure that you're putting the dishes on a surface that has not been used for Chametz. heat up your oven for the maximum and put it in there. They say for 20 minutes. I heard other rabbis say that's really lenient and you should try 40. If you have any concern that your dishes are going to get ruined this way, don't do it. Listen for the next method. But basically putting your dishes like silverware in a oven for 20 or 40 minutes when the oven is very hot, about 550, that can make them kosher for Passover, even if the oven itself is not kosher for Passover. So that's one way to make your silverware kosher for Passover. Next way is the more traditional way. It's the way that's more familiar to many people, and that is by using hot water. So the way to do this is you take a pot and fill it almost to the top with water. Take your time. It's going to take you'd be surprised, but it takes a long time to get the water to really boil, and make sure your water is boiling hot. Once you've done that, pour the water out, and that pot is kosher for Passover. Then you reheat the water, and once it's boiling, you can put in there anything that you want made kosher for Passover. So you can take your silverware, put it in there, let it boil a bit, take it out, make sure it cools off, don't get burnt, and your dishes are kosher for Passover. If something has plastic, some people don't use this method for making plastic kosher for Passover. This year, leading rabbis are saying you can use hot water to make plastic kosher for Passover. So use that to kasher your dishes for Passover. If you have something like a peeler, a vegetable peeler, which likely never touched anything hot and likely never touched anything like cake or cookies, it really was just used for your vegetables. In that case, as long as you make sure it's really clean, you don't even need to put that in your hot water, and just make sure you clean it really well and you make it kosher for Passover. Now here's a very difficult one, and that is the topic of dishwashers. People often are not home for Passover or don't use their dishwashers for Passover. So this year, a lot of people, since they're stuck home, and a lot of people with their whole family, what do you do with dishwashers? So according to Rabbi Herschel Schechter, this year, you can make your dishwasher kosher for Passover as long as it's the walls of the dishwasher are made either from plastic or metal. If the walls of your dishwasher are made from glass, I didn't know there were such dishwashers, but there are, then you cannot make it kosher for Passover. But if your dishwasher is made out of if it's made out of plastic or metal, you do one run with soap, one run without soap, and it's kosher for Passover. Please make sure you are not using the hot water in your house at the same time, because you want to make sure that the dishwasher receives the maximum of hot water that is available, just like there are probably times that you used it to wash your dishes and it got really, really hot. So make sure when you're koshering it, you use the maximum amount of hot water available for you at that time. So again, you can make it kosher, just make sure you do 2 runs, one with soap, one without soap. Another thing you should be careful is to make sure it's very clean before you begin this process. Specifically, one area that you want to make sure is very clean is the drain of the drain of the dishwasher. It's important to note that the exemption of glass dishwashers which cannot be made kosher for Passover applies only to Ashkenazim. Sephardic people do not have the custom to not make glass kosher for Passover, and therefore, even if a dishwasher is made out of glass, you're in the luck and you're doing well. Another important note about dishwashers is please make sure that you do not use the dishwasher 24 hours prior to making it kosher. The same applies to any kind of dishes. You want to make sure you have 24 hours where the dish is completely clean and completely unused. So Passover this year is on Wednesday night, so it's a wise idea already on Monday morning to stop using anything, and then Tuesday morning you can make it kosher for Passover. If you want to even have extra time to cook and use things, Sunday I suggest stopping to use your utensils that you want to make kosher, or your dishwasher, and then this way you can go 24 hours without using it, and you can make it kosher for Passover with the peace of mind knowing you'll have at least a day or two to use them before Passover. It's important to note that you can do this only to remove it from Chametz, but not to change. If you want to change something from dairy to meat or vice versa, now is not the time to do this. Again, these leniencies apply only during this year. Plastic, you can make kosher for Passover. Metal, you can make kosher for Passover. Glass, again, Ashkenazic Jews do not do. Next thing you want to think about is getting rid of your chametz. Getting rid of chametz is obviously an important topic, which is usually something that's done by selling the chametz. I remember fondly the times that I had the opportunity to facilitate this mitzvah of selling chametz and get to see people face to face and ask them where their chametz may be. This year, do not go to the rabbi. Do not meet anyone for selling chametz. There are plenty of forms online for selling your chametz, whether it's your local synagogue or Chabad, and you can sell your chametz online. Make sure you fill in the details accurately, where the chametz is located, and how you want to go about selling it. And it's all the information is in the forms. Just give them the information they need and sell your chametz online. In a lot of situations, if there's a place that you're not going to want to check for chametz, you need to sell it a day earlier. So the night of checking of chametz, if you want something to be out of your possession, make sure you go on the 13th of Nisan, aka Monday night, and you sell that even before the obligation arrives. That is with regard to selling the chametz. Make sure you sell it in the proper time. Real chametz all the way through Tuesday night, and if it's something that you want exempt from the need to check it, then you should sell it the day before. Let's say you have a house somewhere else or whatever it is, make sure you sell it beforehand. The next thing you want to be mindful of is what kind of chametz you sell. I do not sell real chametz, like bread, crackers, cookies. I'll sell something where I have a concern it's not kosher for Passover, but I do not sell actual chametz. However, this year, rabbis are urging Jews, this year you can sell real chametz no matter what your custom is. The reason is some people have been short on food, or they stocked up on a lot of food and they don't know what things are going to look like in another 2-3 weeks. Therefore, this year they can rely on the lenient opinions and sell even things like bread, crackers, etc. So this year you're going to be able also to sell your real chametz, your actual chametz. Then you have on Wednesday morning the custom of srifat chametz, burning the chametz. We will not be doing that this year in the usual way that we know. We will make sure that we get rid of whatever chametz we intend on getting rid of, leave a small amount of chametz to fulfill the mitzvah of ridding yourself of chametz, and then what you do is you take the little amount of chametz that you have left and you either flush it down the toilet, pour a chemical on it that makes it not edible, or rid yourself of it in another way, put it somewhere that you'll never see it again, and it's in the garbage or something like that. But no going outside, no public gatherings for selling chametz, no fire necessary. All you got to do is get rid of the chametz in whatever shape you want on Wednesday morning. Every different time zone has its time. I believe in New York it's somewhere around 10:30 or 11. So those are things that you want to make sure you do this year in a bit of a different way. The next thing that you want to think about now is what kind of matzah you will use. Often people go crazy with their matzahs. They get this kind of matzah, that kind of matzah. This year there are some shortages in some places, not a great deal of them, but there are shortages. And obviously handmade matzah, something that usually happens closer to the holiday, is not going to be happening this year. Therefore, you can use machine-made matzah for the Seder this year. And in fact, many rabbis, including Rabbi Zolti, who was the chief rabbi of Jerusalem, many rabbis preferred machine-made matzahs because with machines, there's less mistakes possible. The machines are much less likely to delay or dilly-dally and have the matzah become chametz. So they actually preferred the machine matzah. This year, you can use machine matzah as long as it says on it shmura. If it's not shmura, you can still, in a difficult situation like this year, you can use it. However, there is a strong preference for shmura matzah. At least for the first night, get a little bit of shmura matzah, but otherwise it's okay as long as it has an OU on it, no problem at all, and you can use that for your matzah of Pesach. The next thing is, a lot of people have the custom of Ta'anit Bechorim. The firstborn boy fasts on the day before Pesach, that would be this year Wednesday, and to get out of this obligation, a lot of people participate in synagogue in a siyum, meaning someone completes a tractate or another major studying accomplishment, and everyone participates in the feast that they make, and thereby exempt themselves from the fast. This year, there will be no communal siyums, there will be no communal feasts, and therefore, if someone is a firstborn, if someone is a bechor, and they want to exempt themselves from the fast, they can do two things. One, they can accomplish something with regard to learning, finish a small masechet, even a masechet of Mishnah, and make a siyum on it and eat. Or they can tune in via Zoom. I know that so many communities are having large siyums that people can tune in through the internet. So if you're a bechor, just look out for those and you will find it. And that is what you want to do this year. You do not want to be in any kind of public gathering. Again, shmura matzah is preferred, but if you don't have it this year, that is totally okay. The last thing that I'm not going to weigh in fully on, but I will mention that some people are thinking of this year, is a Zoom Seder. I know that several leading rabbis in Israel from the Moroccan community signed a letter that it is permitted to use a Zoom this year during Seder. Others have disagreed, and everyone agreed that if there's a concern for the well-being of someone, if someone may get deep feelings of depression, of despair, and may harm themselves because of that in a situation of Passover. They're used to having Passover with their grandkids, their kids, and there's a real valid concern that may cause them real physical damage. Then I think, I believe all rabbis agreed that is something that's permitted. They can participate in a Zoom. Others suggested a much simpler solution, which is get together the whole family an hour or so before the holiday begins. So this year it actually begins pretty late because they changed the clock. So Passover begins probably, the sun goes down at 7:30 or so. And what you do is you get the whole family together maybe at 6 o'clock. Everyone's dressed up, and you communicate with your loved ones that are in a different city, or even in the same city, just in quarantine and self-isolation, which is the safest thing to do at this point. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them here. I'll respond as fast as I can. Most important is to stay healthy, and also check on someone else. See how your friends, relatives, neighbors, or strangers are doing. Make sure that no one feels lonely, no one feels isolated, and everyone has what they need. Wishing everyone a healthy, happy, and beautiful Passover. Chag Kosher of Pesach. It's going to be a different Passover. You're going to remember this for many, many years. Make it special. Make it count. It's not going to be easy, but it will be a unique experience, and let's make the most of it. Wishing everyone a Chag Kosher of Pesach.